right? Just easy 1 million damage. It will be so satisfying to just watch mobs bump up and down in just stupid fashion. Like, I'll show you what it'll look like. I'll show you. Hello everyone, hello internets. Welcome to another Elemental Shaman video. My name is Barokoshama. Today we're going to be talking about the new class changes for Elemental Shaman that just hit the PTR. And I'm super excited about these because I've already done a lot of testing and I wanted to share with you my thoughts, my opinions, what I found, the discussions that we've had in the Elemental Shaman Discord. People are pogging out about this. It's really, really great changes and I wanted to bring it to your attention. So without further ado, let's get into it with the first of the blue posts. Elemental, a mere Drasil, the Dream's Hope 4-set bonus fixed an issue where Chain Lightning and Lightning Bolt were incorrectly highlighted after casting Primordial Wave. Good news, neither of those spells are actually affiliated with the 4-set anymore. Splintered Elements now grants you 20% haste plus an additional 4% haste per extra target hit by Primordial Wave, rather than 10% haste per target hit. This is a balancing thing, okay? This is a buff in single target. This is a nerf in AOE. In AOE, we could get up to 60% bonus haste for the duration of Splintered Elements. Now we can only get up to 42%, I think it is. But in single target, we can get up to 24%. So that's great. That's great. It's a balancing change. We're already getting so much haste from our 2-piece anyway, just from the additional 6% haste we're getting from the Elemental Blast buff that we get from the Elemental Blast that's launched after you cast Primordial Wave. So this is a good change. I think it kind of fixes a lot of issues that we had single target and running Splintered Elements in single target. Further Beyond can now only increase the duration of Further Beyond by up to 150% of the original duration of Ascendance. So this means, I'll quickly explain it to you. If we're expecting to Deeply Rooted Elements and Further Beyond and we proc Deeply Rooted Elements, we can only be in Ascendance from that Deeply Rooted Elements proc for a total of 15 seconds. Until you come out of Ascendance again and proc Deeply Rooted Elements, and then you can be in it for a total of 15 seconds. If you're spec'd into Ascendance itself, the base or original duration of it is 15 seconds, so you can get up to an additional, I believe, 22.5 seconds. Okay, so you could be in Ascendance for a total of 37.5 seconds. I think my math is okay on that. Don't quote me. That may be incorrect. If you're spec'd into Ascendance, the Further Beyond duration is longer than if you're spec'd into Deeply Rooted Elements. Okay? This needed to happen. I know a lot of you guys may be thinking in the comment section, okay, well, I really liked being in Ascendance permanently, and I thought that it was really cool and it was fun gameplay and I did so much damage. But there was an issue. I talked about this in my last video. If we're in Ascendance in an absorbent amount of time, you're going to have a huge damage variance. So if you fall out of Ascendance, you're doing shit damage. But if you're in Ascendance, you're doing pretty good to average damage. There's a problem there. Damage variance. We had the same problem back in Legion. If you want to watch my video about how it used to be, I'll put it in the link in the description of the video down below, and it's also going to be in one of those little cards up there. I don't want to go over that issue again. This is a good change. We're going to be balanced correctly around the actual damage that our base class is doing, rather than a stupid build that is just cheese and degenerate. So this is a good change. Primordial Wave can no longer be used to heal a friendly ally. It is now only an offensive spell for Elemental Shaman. They did the same thing for Enhancement Shaman and actually for Restoration Shaman. Primordial Wave is now only a healing spell. I don't really know why they did that. It didn't really heal for really anything. Doesn't even do damage as elemental, right? Okay. Now, here's the biggest change. The 4-piece has been redesigned yet again. Amir Drasil's The Dream's Hope 4 set bonus has been redesigned. Lava Burst burns your target for an additional 15% additional damage over 4 seconds. This is, I believe, down from 25%, but this is for all Lava Burst damage, not just within our Primordial Wave window. Okay, so when you casted previously, when you casted Primordial Wave, you gain the buff Molten Charge. Okay, during this duration of this buff, all of your Lava Bursts in the target, or all of your Lava Bursts that were going out to any target, were afflicted the Molten Slag dot. Okay, this dot works like Ignite, so the higher damage your Lava Burst is doing, the more damage this dot is going to do. There, I'm fucking done. I'm blind. Okay, cool. Detour from the video. Anyway, Molten Slag does more dot damage while you're in Ascendance, so this also means that if you proc Deeply Rooted Elements, you're going to be doing more Molten Slag damage, essentially. Cool. What does the rest of the shit do? I'm all over the place with this crap. We're live, baby. We're live. Lava Burst burns your target for the additional 15% over 4 seconds, and after you consume Primordial Wave, your next 3 casts of Lava Burst also hit up to 3 additional targets afflicted by your Flame Shock for 100% normal damage. This used to be tied to Chain Lightning. I'm glad it's not anymore, because it was too difficult for Blizzard to balance the weaving between Chain Lightning and Lava Burst, because we just weren't using our spender spells. This was the biggest problem. I talked about this in my last video. We were just casting Chain Lightning and Lava Burst in AoE because the Chain Lightning caused your Lava Burst to hit all these targets, which reduced the cooldown of your Primordial Wave again, thanks to our talent Rolling Magma. So we were just casting Chain Lightning, Lava Burst, not even an Earthquake. Now, want to know what's really freaking great? We just cast Lava Burst and Earthquake. Hey, we're back to a 2-button rotation, except this time there's a lot more shit involved in it. It's better. I made a list of pros and cons for this again for this video, so we're going to talk about all that stuff. So further beyond nerf, there's still a few bugs still with the overlapping Dre proc, so Deeply Rooted Elements, and it's hard to analyze how impactful the change to Deeply Rooted, or the change to Further Beyond was, but Further Beyond is now dead in a good way. It had unhealthy game design. I want to make sure that that is very clear. Pros: definitive new builds are possible to play with and have fun. A lot of the Elemental Shaman Discord have been playing around with variations of the Wildfire build, including things like Flux Melting and Mountains Will Fall, right? People are still trying to figure out how Further Beyond is playing. It's still a little bug, like I mentioned. So this change is going to bring variations of the Wildfire build a lot higher when it comes to viability in both single target and AoE, because Elemental Shaman currently has an issue with, well, we can spec into AoE or we can spec into single target. Wildfire is performing very well because of the tier set now in both single target and AoE, thanks to us using things like Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence, a little bit more mastery, which further increases the value of Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence, gives us more Lava Burst. More Lava Burst means that we're reducing the cooldown of Rolling Magma, more Primordial Wave, or reducing the cooldown of Primordial Wave thanks to Rolling Magma. More Primordial Waves means more Splintered Element buffs and Elemental Blast buffs, and it's a consistent positive feedback loop. It's fantastic for single target. The increased haste feels great. You guys are going to pick this up and be like, wow, I love Elemental Shaman again. We're going to get into the gameplay for it pretty soon, but I want to still go over these notes that I wrote down. So very fun playstyles, which include both builder and spenders spells that appeal to the fantasy of the class. Before, we weren't even using our spender spells. That was the issue. Cons. Now, Blizzard also, in the class changes, they also released a pretty significant change to Hunter's Mark. Shaman is still the only spec outside of enhancement, which only affects melee with Wind Fury Totem. Sorry, I'm shaking my desk and probably the camera. Elemental Shaman and Resto Shaman are the only specs now that just don't bring a raid buff. This has been a contingency point to why Shaman is really not brought to World First Race. Max talks about this all the time whenever he goes over Shaman changes. It's like, oh, cool changes. Still don't have a raid buff, so doesn't matter. That's pretty much his attitude towards it. Says a lot, and it builds on this stigma to why Shaman just really isn't brought to a lot of things. But Hunter's Mark has now been changed to be put on the target, and the damage taken of that target is increased by 5% by all targets while above 80% maximum HP. Anyway, they got a raid buff. Very cool. Though, this means that Restoration and Elemental Shaman are likely the next classes to get a raid buff of some sort. Now, I've come up with some ideas about what I think the raid buff should be. One of them is a 5% magic damage reduction. I understand that rogues and paladins right now bring, like, I think a 3% damage reduction to the raid. I think it would be unique that Elemental and Restoration Shaman bring a 5% just magic DR, right? Because it's only magic damage reduction. It can be a little bit higher, and then we can also flex our Stone Skin Totem to help our raid reduce, like, or I guess our party reduce the physical damage they take by 10%. I talk about Stone Skin Totem a lot in my videos, but I digress. Another clear one would be something like Sky Fury Totem, where we can increase the spell critical strike damage of our allies by 10%. Right now, Sky Fury is 20%. That's a little too high for a raid buff, so I thought, hey, maybe 10% spell crit would be pretty good, or just simply a haste buff for the entire raid. Something like 3 or 4% haste buff. Nothing that's too crazy, right? Those are some good ideas, right? Let me know what you guys think should be the raid buff that Ellie or Restoration Shaman brings in the comments down below. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is the likelihood that Lightning build is probably obsolete with these changes to our tier set. Since Lightning build is not really beneficial to the way that the tier set actually works. Revolves around Primordial Wave, obviously, which we didn't use in Lightning build, and revolves around a lot of Lava Burst damage. Everything on the fire side of our tree kind of works with Lava Burst rather than Lightning Rod. We still can play with Stormkeeper because it does offer quite a lot of burst damage, both in AoE and single target, especially when we're coupling our Stormkeeper single target charges with Power of the Maelstrom and Surge of Power. But yeah, we're probably not going to be playing Lightning build anymore. With the changes, it's looking like a pure, deep Wild Fury build could be more viable in Mythic Plus, as I was talking about earlier. The change in both single target and AoE is quite noticeable for Wildfire build. I'm going to go over a play-by-play of what those look like for you guys. And another big increase in the elemental morale is just spamming Earthquake. Now, what do I mean by that? So because we're not running Echoes of the Great Sundering anymore, we're not dumping as much Maelstrom into these empowered Earthquakes, meaning that we just get more Earthquakes on the ground. So we don't have to worry about tanks moving out of them, because as soon as they move out, we just put more down because of how much sheer Maelstrom generation we're able to get in the Wildfire build. And I'll show you in a sec. It's really great. But this means more Earthquakes on the ground, more interrupts, and knockdown. It will be so satisfying to just watch mobs bump up and down in just stupid fashion. Like, I'll show you what it'll look like. I'll show you. Something like that. That's just gonna be what it's gonna look like for when you're playing with an elemental shaman in your group. I think it'll be fantastic. Your tanks are gonna love you. Your healers are gonna love you because everybody's gonna be taking less damage. It's gonna be great. So why don't I show you guys what it looks like? Why don't I show you? On 6 targets, we like to use target dummies here. And I want to make sure that I'm not spec'd into something I don't want. Okay, yeah, we went out of Ascendance. I remember doing that now. So on 6 targets, if you're familiar with the Wildfire build, obviously make sure that your character is buffed. Right, and keep in mind, guys, I'm at 460 item level here on the PTR, and I'm running an unused trinket with a huge steroid increase to main stat. So if I'm running this, your opener, I'm not even going to talk about the opener. It's if you want to look about what your openers are, go on Warcraft, Wowhead, whatever, or Icy Veins, and look at your openers there. But it is the regular Wildfire build opener with Liquid Magma Totem. Right, just easy 1 million damage. I'm really glad that I got that. There for you guys, and it just lava burst, earthquakes, lava burst, earthquakes. Oh, you want some more lava burst? Here's Primordial Wave off cooldown again for you. Look at that Primordial Wave coming off cooldown, guys. It is beautiful. Now, you may say that this is going to get nerfed. No. No, it's not going to get nerfed. This is intended gameplay. Hello, YouTube. Barokoshama from the future here. There's been a little bit of new things that I wanted to discuss since I have kind of gone through the editing, looked back at some stuff, and some new information has come to light. I want to just make sure that this is in the video before I send it out. So there are a few more additional bugs that I wanted to mention regarding the new tier set. One of them is that Splintered Elements is actually refreshing on the additional lava burst that you get from Molten Charge. So you can see here I have the Splintered Elements buff at 24% haste. If I lava burst again, Molten Charge will refresh the duration of Splintered Elements. This is probably not supposed to be intended. This is an absorbent amount of haste that we get, pretty much lasting us until we use Primordial Wave again, which is a pretty significant duration. So that's likely a bug. Another thing is that the 15-second elemental blast buff that you get from Primordial Wave for the 2 set is being overridden by elemental blast base cast. So if you respect an elemental blast, this buff is overriding the one that you currently have, not giving you an additional buff. Hopefully they change that. We don't need an additional buff from elemental blast. We just need it to not override it if the duration from the initial buff from Primordial Wave is higher than the one that you get from the regular cast of elemental blast. That would be great, because then we're not losing a couple seconds or a few seconds of the buff duration. Another bug that we're seeing is that elemental blast is not triggering Surge of Power. I might have mentioned this already in the video, but it is working with Splintered Elements. Mountains will fall, Lightning Rod, and Echoes of Great Sundering. All those things are working with the lava or the elemental blast that you get from Primordial Wave, but Surge of Power is not. We just want to get some clarification on if that's intended or not. And for the first 3 lava bursts that you cast, it's looking like Molten Charge is hitting the single target that you have. So it's sending in 1 additional lava burst to your main target if you only have 1 Flame Shock active. So you're getting 1 additional free lava burst to your main target. This is likely not intended, because of the wording of it being additional targets affected by your flame shocks, not necessarily your main target. So like it's a little bit different if let's say I have 4 targets afflicted by flame shock, I'm going to see 4 lava burst fly out, right? Instead of like I would see primordial wave, but my main target is not going to get hit by the additional lava burst. It's only going to be the additional 3 targets that have flame shock afflicted by it. But if I have 3 or less flame shocks active, if I have 3 or less, I'm still going to send out like 4 lava bursts. It's just going to hit the main target. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, it's sending an additional lava burst on your main target if you have 3 or less flame shocks out. Another thing is that after, or like actually, even if you don't have the tier set equipped, Primordial Wave is actually just giving you the Molten Charge buff, which I think is hilarious. Let me try and get out of combat here to show you guys. But this is without the tier set on. If I send out Primordial Wave and I consume it, I get the Molten Charge buff, which is funny. It's funny. This in itself just means Primordial Wave is bugged, but this bug is not adding any additional damage. It's not double dipping the Molten Charge buff to send out like 2 lava bursts. It's like you're getting the same amount of Molten Charge stacks. Like it's just funny that Primordial Wave itself is kind of bugged with the Molten Charge. That bug itself is not adding any additional damage. I want to clarify that. But the additional lava bursts on your main target is adding quite a significant amount of our single target damage. So I wanted to just clarify that that is something that's happening along with the refreshing of splintered elements. The rest of the video is still really good. I want to make sure that you guys enjoy that. There's a lot of really fun things that are coming from this build and these changes. So just enjoy the rest of the video. And I wanted to talk about those, but take care. Damage, as you can see here, like I'm kind of sustaining. This was without Bloodlust, right? Without Potion. We got into another Deeply Rooted Elements proc. And the Ascendance, or at least Lava Burst, feels really good with Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence. And your Earth Shock will always give you that instant cast Lava Burst, which is fantastic. You will also get an instant cast Lava Burst whenever you use Primordial Wave, because the Elemental Blast that it sends out is a real Elemental Blast that works with Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence. So that's a fantastic little thing as well. That I think it's a nice touch. It kind of just gives you a free cast of Lava Burst that you can consume that Primordial Wave with, especially if you didn't have any charges to begin with when you casted that Primordial Wave. So single target here, it can be a little better. Obviously, I didn't have all my cooldowns, but it feels much better than it did on live when it came to a Wildfire build in Mythic Plus. You kind of had to go with a variation between Ice Fury with Electrified Shocks, maybe Elemental Blast, and then some Wildfire Talents. But this feels way better single target. I think you guys are going to have some fun with it. I'm going to release another video talking about the enhancement changes, what I think about that. But if you guys like the videos that I'm doing, you like the content, please consider hitting that subscribe button, ring the noti bell so you get notified when I release new content. And if you want to support my content, I do live streams over at twitch.tv/Barokoshama. Please also check out my Instagram and social medias. And if you want to follow my Patreon page or subscribe to my Patreon page, I actually do have tier 3 free coaching. For any tier 3 subs, you get a free half-hour coaching every month. So if you guys want to check all that out, links are in the description down below. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. And until next time, keep calm and Maelstrom on. Bye-bye.